Good weekend, everybody. Welcome to Simple Sundays. This week, I look at some football games, modern updates to classic football games. First one up is Championship Manager 97-98 version 2. So I'm going to leave links to every single one of these in the description underneath. But basically, I wanted to cover these because I've been playing a lot of these myself over the last few days, or last few weeks, should I say, simply because I'm a massive Football Manager fan. And I missed out because of Football Manager 25, so I thought, well, how can I change my Football Manager 24 setup? How can I do things differently? I've tried so many different styles and ways of playing. One thing I thought is, let's have a look for some of the modern updates, because I knew some did exist. I found one for the 0102, which I'm going to cover later on. But first up was one I didn't actually know existed at all, and a fascinating project called version 2 of Championship Manager 97-98. Absolutely classic game released by Domark back in the day, or Eidos Interactive it might have been actually, because I think it's just in the split over of those two. And the company that obviously goes on to become Sports Interactive starts here, although it's the Collier Brothers work that's on this actual game. I personally think this is an amazing thing. Basically what the people have done is they've given you a couple of options. You can play classic Championship Manager 97-98, with updated parts of it. So they've updated some of the code, made it a little bit faster, tidied up some of the loose bits and made the game run smoother. Or you can choose the Brave New World type thing. Now there's two different ways of looking at it. One is that what they do during this game is, as you progress through the game, real life players that existed, so say your Steven Gerrards, Cristiano Ronaldo's for the 2000 period, they will actually appear in game. So the longer you go through, the more you will get these players that you know coming through, as well as extra players in the database. So it adds this wonderful mix of new and old together. It's an incredible project. As I said, I'll link to it below. The guys deserve a lot of credit, and drop them a donation if you can. What I would say to this is, I personally, I was always terrible at 97-98. I could never ever play and actually succeed anywhere. I always found the tactical setup, I could never get the right tactical setup in the game sorted. Despite how much I like it. I mean, I remember 4-1-3-2 being particularly good, 4 at the back, 1 deep defensive midfielder, 3 central midfielders, 2 attackers, a couple of runs outside, used to work pretty well. But in this, they have revised some of those parts, so maybe some of those old classic formations don't work quite as well. But this is one that I would absolutely highly advise playing. Not only is it, as I said, a really fresh take. I've worked through quite a number of seasons now just on my own time playing this. But it's also one of those games that deserves celebration, because I think sometimes management games especially are actually left in the dust when some of them are still really, really fantastic now. Like another one that I know that somebody subscribed to the channel, Kim Justice, really loves is Premier Manager 3, another game that I super enjoyed as well, despite not owning an Amiga and playing it much later on. The thing about some of these classic games is they have speed in the way that modern Football Manager doesn't. And as I said, I'm an enormous fan. I've spent, I think, 1,500 hours playing Football Manager 24, about the same playing Football Manager 23 and 22, so I've got a lot of time in the game. And although I love it, that slow pace isn't for everybody. The best thing about this is that because of its modifications, there are ways of actually running it on Android, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure about iOS, but I'm sure there are. Obviously, you can run the originals as well via DOSBox if you know what you're doing, or a DOSBox front end, which makes these games really, really good to take. The other one I would absolutely advise is 93-94, or Championship Manager Italia 95, the sort of add-on pack stroke extra game. It's kind of hard to explain because they did that, I think, Italy and Holland at the time. And I try to think, there was one other league, I think it might be in France, that they did as extension packs to the main game. I'm not sure there were standalone titles. I've tried to look up that information and I can't really find that much. Like they were standalone discs, but I don't think they were as expensive as the base game was. But I might be completely wrong. Somebody can correct me in the comments if you think that is the case. But more than anything, as I was trying to say about the part of it, I really think that the Football Manager series as a game has lots of great iterations for various different things. This is the game of people like Tommy Svindle Larson, João Minha being particularly epic at this point, a player who obviously never really got anywhere near his career, sort of similar to Danielson when he moved to Betis round about this time. And yeah, this game just fantastic to play. The modern update really adds some nice detail to an old classic game and helps you run it on a modern system. Everything's there in the launch, and as I said, I will link below to the parts of it. I'll leave a couple of minutes of fresh screen up, and then I will come back to talk about the next game. You're a goal scoring superstar hero, as the song title goes, or the title song goes, should I say. Uh, what more needs to be said about one of the most legendary games that's ever existed in football? Sensible World of Soccer. An absolutely incredible achievement back in its day in 1994. I think it came 94, 95 as the year it came out for that season. And Guinness Book of Records have this in their 10 most important games of all time. Now, that is an incredible honour for a football title because generally, as I said before, football titles are considered completely throwaway, and I actually think that's really unfair. There's still some excellent variations and changes in these games. And with Sensible World of Soccer, you get the beauty of Sensible Soccer, one of the most addictively brilliant football games that's ever been created, one of the best multiplayer games that could ever be made, quite honestly. Even as somebody who prefers the Pro Evolution Soccer series to play just in general terms, in terms of two-player, there are very few games as amazing to play as Sensible World of Soccer. The back and forthness of the game just makes it so exciting for people to watch. I remember being in Common Room in 6th year, many moons ago, and us having many tournaments of the game. Lots of people who never played any football games would happily play Sensible Soccer in its part, especially on the Mega Drive when you had the ability to control the ball. Obviously, it wasn't Sensible World of Soccer then, so you match that's amazing game, refined over a few years on the Amiga, and then you add a management game, but not just a management game. You add more leagues than any Football Manager has actually ever had in it, which is quite an achievement. Every single team, country, everything is here. All the clubs are period specifically correct. This one is Swash 2020, which has got an updated roster on it, and the updated roster obviously is the amount of work that goes into this is not quite as mind-boggling as the original, where John Hare went and spoke to a few people he knew and they kind of fleshed out all the details. Obviously this has got a more sort of Football Manager approach to it, as it is these days, with lots of scouts and people helping out and a better idea of what's going on. 1994, obviously we're looking at not pre-internet by any stretch, but certainly the World Wide Web's very much in its infancy, and broadband isn't a thing. 56k modems, or 26.5 or whatever for the win, you know. Back in the day when downloading a tiny little photograph took about an hour and a half, if you were lucky. And I think that Sensible World of Soccer opened my eyes up to a whole world of football outside. It's one of the main reasons at the time that I started to watch a lot more European football that wasn't just Football Italia, don't get me wrong. Golazzo might be one of the greatest chants and that title sequence in the days of that. I remember free world-class football on your television. It's quite amazing to think, and that shows the difference in age that we've got to now. This game has never got worse. It's retained its absolute peak perfection, and the management side is enough fun that you can have a brilliant run as a big team, or you can go to the tiniest little league in the world. Faroe Islands is usually my favourite. I like to go HB and basically take the pencil team all the way to the top. The beauty of it is if you hit Europe in those leagues, you get millions of pounds in a league where everybody's worth 25, 30,000. So in one way, if you want to kind of learn how to play Sensible World of Soccer, it isn't the worst idea to do a career like that and just play the games when you start to upgrade your side if you want to learn how to get better at it. I've never been the best at Sensible Soccer. Doesn't stop me trying, but I've never actually been the best at it. But the Sensible World of Soccer, I again must have put thousands of hours into the game over my time. First played it on DOS. I prefer the way the Amiga version plays in lots of ways, but the DOS one is the one I grew up with, so that's kind of where I am. I had an Amiga very late in time, but I never really used it as much because I had a PlayStation at the same time, and it just seemed a bit old hat, something that I kind of regret now a little bit more. But this game, absolutely amazing. 2020, again, link down below. Go and check it out. You'll be playing it for days. And the brilliance of this one is it adds in extra commentary modes. You can choose like who the commentary team is. It takes it from lots of different classic football games. You hear lots of parts. It's as well done as any title could possibly be. It's got every option, detail, and customization option you could possibly want right at the start menu. Amazing as you boot it up. One of the best things about the Amiga scene. These guys blow my mind with how much dedication they have to the cause, basically. So again, a little bit more footage, and then I'm going to move on to our next topic. And so we come to the third game. Championship Manager 0102 updated. Just like Sensible World of Soccer, really, this is the classic game just updated to a completely modern roster. Its database is absolutely up to the minute perfect. It's amazing just how accurate it is. It's as good as any modern Football Manager. Again, any the modern Football Manager 24 ones that have converted it to 25, if you want, for the rosters and updates for the clubs, the players and everything that needs to be done for it, and strip changes and all those things. This is just as much work as that, and equally as brilliant. They've managed to get a right balance between trying to balance modern players fairly. It's obviously tricky because there's sort of more variables, and everybody's got an individual person. Like I remember back in the day of Master League saves, or the PES World allowing you to download option file saves, and a particularly generous Aberdeen fan, making Aberdeen basically the best team in the game after putting all the Scottish teams in with all their badges. Much appreciated, but it was definitely bizarre having incredible Aberdeen players. I think that was Pro Evolution Soccer 5, but I might be wrong on that. PES World now charges a little bit for the rosters, but I think that's fair enough. As I said, the amount of work that goes into these things is incredible. I could have covered that, but I didn't really want to go down that route just yet. The Pro Evolution Soccer series has a lot I want to cover, and I'm already going to cover an additional game, although this game is more of a modification that will come up. But Championship Manager 0102, what's more to say? Came out in 01, as you would imagine. Championship Manager 0102. It is considered by many to be the pinnacle of Championship Manager. There's a lot of people I know still play this over any version. In fact, if like the mobile versions, etc., you get of Football Manager these days, I would actually not bother with that and put on CMO 102, because you can actually load it again onto emulators onto the phone. Significantly better experience. It's roughly the same as Football Manager Mobile, apart from it's a lot faster, easier to sort of understand the little parts and details of it, and you've got a modern roster which will always be updated as people go along and keep doing this, and that happens every single year. Just like the SWOS guys, these people deserve so much credit for it. Again, links be down below. Go and throw them a donation, etc. on their way if you take a download of it. I would highly suggest it, because it's worth it for all these people hard work. There is an awful lot of work. I've done some modification myself, and I'm going to run a Football Manager save for the people who can just see stream. So we're going to do a Chipstakes FC run, or Made Up Football Club on the stream, and basically the amount of work that just went into that one database with, I don't know, 20, 22, 23 players is a lot of time and work trying to figure out how to balance it to make sure it's not too unbalanced so the run's fine. And obviously this needs to be tested for years, so these guys deserve a lot of credit. This is just one I would highly advise to play now. If you're looking for something else for Football Manager 24, you're bored of 24, you don't know what to do to 25 or 26 or whatever the new Football Manager is going to be, this is probably the one to play. I think of all the adaptations, because it brings it right up to date, it keeps that simplicity and the speed. You can hammer through a season in a single day or two. That's probably a day, to be honest, which in the modern game you might get through, I don't know, a quarter if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, playing it a whole year and you know exactly, playing it for a whole day and you know exactly what you're doing. But yeah, this one here, I went Spartans in my game, had great fun playing them. So Spartans are a local club to me, they're probably the most local club to me. And basically they got promoted out of the Highland Leagues, the Lowland League last year into the Scottish lower leagues to become a full-time club, or like into the professional leagues, or the proper leagues. I try to think how to use the proper word, but I can't think of it off the top of my head, so we're just going to leave it here. But basically they're into the full leagues, from going from junior football or lower league football here, like, so they're going to the third division, part-time teams still, very low budget, but that's where I started, and it's great fun that you can pick a team like that up and go down, like have real fun in a modern version of an old game, something that keeps nostalgia alive, keeps that brilliance of gameplay, which none of these games have lost. And as I said, 97, 98 to 0102, completely different games, well worth playing both in their own right, because they play very differently. They've got completely different sort of AI parts to it. You've got to manage certain the details of it. Like in 0102, I forgot about the Champions League stuff. The only thing they couldn't do for the more modern version is update the transfer fees and things because of the way the code works. So it is quite amusing watching players move for like £10 million, which in those days was crazy money, but now is a drop in the ocean, let's be honest. It barely buys you a good Premier League player, which is just kind of mad to think in that time. But that's where we are now. So again, I'll play a little bit more of this. I don't have too much more to say, but we'll just leave that one there. So now we come to something a bit different. I thought I'd let the intro play on this, so you could see some elements of the work that's went into the whole thing. But basically this is Pro Evolution Soccer 2 on the PlayStation 1. So not ISS Pro Evolution Soccer Deluxe 2 as in the one that had ISS Pro. This is the one that appeared on PlayStation 2 as well as PlayStation. And this is work of Brazilian modders. They have modded in a 2018 World Cup Russia mode. So it's basically the entire Russia World Cup, but with the beautiful addition of all the original stuff being there. So it's not just like the FIFA games of the World Cup where you just get the World Cup, maybe a bit friendly, a potential international league. In this, it's the same game. It's got the Master League in it, but it's updated everything for the World Cup in 2018 and all the rosters for all the clubs. So again, all the players, like the squad details, all that are absolutely up to date and perfect. The bit I really love about this is the fact that in the Master League, not only have they updated all the things there, but in the classic teams where they used to obviously have just the classic players like your Platinis and your Van Bastens, your Lev Yashin, man, Black Spider, I can't say his name, I can get his nickname, but Lev Yashin, I actually did rush him, unbelievable. But yeah, it's got all them, but it's updated those squads with players that would now be considered classics. So likes of Dennis Bergkamp will appear in the Holland side despite him being, at the time of the game's release, actively playing, or David Trezeguet for the France team, which means that you get an extra new level Master League mode, which is fascinatingly well done. And I've been playing it, and I've got a little MIUI 30 handheld, and I've custom firmware it to run that, and it's absolutely superb. And it is fantastic. Unfortunately, I can't link to this one because I don't know if there's a host anywhere for it. I've only seen limited details about this. People in Brazil in general, some YouTubers actually covering this, but very few details exist for this online. So I might well stick it on archive.org or something as a mod if it's not already there. I did check and I didn't see it, but it might be listed under something like Portuguesa, as they speak in Brazil. But yeah, again, these guys have actually done this a few times for a few different games. Brazil has an amazing part. I was going to include Ronaldinho 64 actually in this video originally, but my emulated version was just a nightmare. Had enormous black squares underneath the players. I'm assuming that wasn't in the original ROM, but I could not get the N64 emulator to emulate the Pirate ROM properly. So if I get that working, I will follow up and do another video based upon some of the mod hacks and ROM changes to old school games. But yeah, football games are some of my favourite games of all to play, and this game is still as brilliant to play as it was back in its day. I was mentioning on the other night about the fact that ISS 98, that's when the Konami series really hit an extra level. The original deluxe game is superb. I love that. That was game changing. When I played that, I didn't ever play FIFA basically again. Pretty much not. But when it got to 98, the step up is just unreal. It runs smoother, it looks better, and that nailed it for the PlayStation 1 versions. I actually own all of these games in real life because I'm an absolute football game madman. I actually own quite a lot of old management games, so if you'd be interested in seeing some of those running, I'd be quite happy to include some other extra football management games that might interest people. Because I feel some of the console ones, especially in the PS2 generation thing, have been overlooked, and some of those games have some great ideas in them. And it's, again, this is a topic that's something that I would like to cover. I love talking about football games, as you can tell right now. Getting excited for the Scotland-Greece game tonight. Can't wait, even if it will end up being disappointing as it usually is for Scotland. But all in all, this is a game that hasn't lost its luster, and the overhauling of it all is just so impressive. From the splash screen at the start to all the detail done in between. Yeah, there are a little bit language barrier if you don't know the original menus like I do. But that's something that could be easily overlooked. I mean, Google Translate will help you out perfectly fine here, to be honest. It's not going to give you too many hassles. And again, this is one I can't advise enough to play. Sit down and play. It might be old, but I think these days, with no competition for FIFA, all football games are the way to go forward. I think there's still plenty of modes and discussion about certain games that I want to do. One thing I definitely want to cover is interesting modes in these games as well. Something like This Is Football's Jumpers for Goalposts mode, for example. Or even looking at something like Yuri, which came out in Japan on the GBA as a Pro Evolution Soccer type game. But it's not like the ISS Pro sort of one that came out on it, which is also excellent. This is a completely separate game that plays more like the PlayStation versions of Pro Evolution Soccer. It's a little bit slow and a little bit more limited with the number of buttons. Yeah, it's again excellent to play. It's my favourite Game Boy Advance football game, and I do plan to do more Game Boy Advance videos etc. in the future. I've just been trying to find my feet, and football's one thing I feel very comfortable talking about. I needed a little break, so I do apologise. I was just a little bit overwhelmed with everything in my home life. There was a lot of stuff going on that made it really hard to sit down, focus and get the work done. So I thought if I started with a nice football one, it would help me get going again. The Plutonium Files is very much underway. I have been writing the script for that, I just haven't worked on the video very much at all yet, mainly because I need to get the script down before I decide on anything else. I also want to cover another game or talk about something in relation to it, but I'm just trying to find the right angle on that just now. I'll update you in a week or so about where that is, but it should be 3 weeks away maximum, 4. It won't be too much longer. And on the next one, I want to cover a Bond game. I've been really enjoying doing the Bond games, and I've been doing The World Is Not Enough. Unfortunately, I've found it rather difficult on some of the systems that I've been trying to play it on. If you're interested in a film review on top of that for the film itself in relation to the games and what I think of them all, then leave a comment and let me know down below. But thanks very much for your time. As I said, I'll leave links to everybody's work in the description. Everybody deserves a lot of credit for all this stuff. All football, all game fans, football fans mixed together. It's a wonderful mix. And for me, it helps me take back my nostalgia and enjoy everything I enjoyed about it without having to sacrifice where I am now. And as I said, as somebody that doesn't play EAFC because it's not very good, I've been looking around and thinking, well, what football games can I play? What can I do that's interesting to do? And I've always found going back and looking at the certain titles like this far more interesting. Even if they're not good games, they can still be really interesting from some points of view. And yeah, I own lots of bad ones as well as good ones. So what I might do next time is cover a really bad football game list of the various games that I actually own that are not great. And that's to say an understatement. Probably my favourite project, always one I've talked about, Viva Football, being one of the biggest missed moments of football history, basically. Of they do all the work, like in World Soccer, they did all the squad work for all those teams, and yet they made an absolutely abhorrent football game. It's basically like, and I honestly think that is one of the worst football games that have existed. It's right up with the very worst. I can't stand playing it. I really can't stand it. I prefer, like some game other people hate more, I actually slightly prefer. 4-4-2 soccer might be absolutely rubbish, but at least running around the goalkeeper's more entertaining than being frustrated that there being no sort of midfield game. But anyway, sorry, going on and on as always. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I really appreciate any time you take out. I really love the fact that some people have started to watch some of the football videos, and it's started to find a little bit of resonance, because it is a topic I would like to cover more in the future. If you've got any suggestions for any topics, anything else, let me know down below. Thanks for your time. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you next week. Take care.